Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Hamrick, if you will continue to stay, I do want to tell you that we all have gotten together and we have gotten you for your service on the last 12 years there at the Board of Education. Unending service. We've decided to get you another wage. John.
It's not unending because it's ending tonight.
We've got one more meeting and a possible future summit. So accept this from all of us.
When the wind blows through it, it says, "Thank God, Ray Elm, you're gone."
When the wind blows through it, does it play your ringtone?
Amazing grace, yes.
Thank you.
On your paddle, you have to be here.
Great.
Oh, and your service.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your service.
It's not easy.
You're doing this right.
And I will say, if I can, for the next president, if you all will buy a new gavel, because I'm taking this one with me.
We can do
And the reason being, this survived COVID when I had to use it quite a bit. When this room was filled and I had to use it to gavel a lot of people. So I've probably broken it in one form or another. So I'm taking that with me. By the next president, a new gavel.
Mr. Hamlin, as the president, actually, you are able to take your chair and desk also.
I don't need that. I'll give that to Dr.
We don't
St.
get
Tim.
one in time, can we borrow it for the?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Just
Can we get one?
mail it to me. So, but I do want the gavel. Like I said, I hit that pretty hard a couple times, thought I was going to break it during COVID. So with that, we will move down to special recognitions and presentations, Lola Brown, federal programs.
We'll try to keep this as short as possible for you all tonight. We're required as a CSI school to present once a year to the board with our progress and things we've done moving forward. Last year, that was delayed. I think we did it in September of last year. But we're supposed to do it before the end of the fiscal year. So here we are in June, last meeting, to make this presentation. So last year, you got a similar document. In what you see there is there's no math or ELA data. The last time we did this, it was not embargoed, and it's still embargoed, so we're not allowed to share that data at this time. I can tell you that in the next section down, I looked at our iReady test scores from our end of the year benchmark and was able to give you a little summary of what we lack, and it's very similar to what it was last year. What the team found that we needed to work on were those 6 things listed there, and I listed out to the side that all those have either been implemented or completed throughout the 23-24 school year, and we'll continue to do that moving into the 24-25 school year, and hopefully carry a lot of those practices over to the new school when we get there. As far as our goals go, it was our main goal was to have all students show either stretch or typical growth on the benchmarks. The difference is typical growth is 1 year from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, so they grow a full year. Stretch growth would be 2 or more years gained over the course of the school year. So that's a little harder to attain. You can see in English language arts, 24% of the students met stretch growth. And in math, 22% met stretch growth. And typical growth, which is our indicator on our strategic plan, 49% had typical growth in English and 51% in math. So while those are good, kind of doesn't give you a real clear picture, because obviously if I were 3 grade levels behind and I made typical growth, now I'm still 3 grade levels behind. So that doesn't really tell you a whole lot. If they met their stretch growth and they were 3 grade levels behind, then they're only, potentially 2 or 1 grade level behind at that point. But again, that gives you some information off of the iReady scores. Chronically absent, that information is as up to date as I have it. Again, may not be what we come out with final numbers because it includes every student and not just those that were there for the duration of the school year. So that's a little different. But 75% were not chronically absent. That's down, or it's lower than what I would like it to be. And throughout all our efforts, we've still not found a way to get kids there to not miss 18 days of school. We've tried rewards throughout the 9 weeks. At the end of each 9 weeks, different things going on, and we've done roller skating. We've done everything we can do, and kids still miss days. So if somebody has a better plan, I think we should share it with everybody.
Do you know why they're missing days?
Well, for any reason. I mean, they may just stay home.
Not necessarily illness?
No, not necessarily. They just maybe a day they want to take off, or for whatever reason, they got up, they didn't feel good, they stay home. When I went to school and I think even some days I went sick or not feeling as well as I should, and I made it throughout the day. And, we tell kids all the time, they come into the office, I'm sick, I'm not feeling good. Well, just go back to class. You don't need to sit here. You can go back to class. And I think, with COVID and some of that they did get used to being at home and staying home. And I think parents let them stay home way more than they used to.
And where are you working with the attendance director?
Yeah, sure. And some of these days are excused. That's what the one thing you have to remember is, they can go to the doctor and stay out all day and get an excuse no for the day. So, a lot of the days are excused. Some of the days aren't excused. Jim can tell you that his desk is piled full of kids that have, 10, 20, 30 unexcused absences.
Yeah, the concentration, he told me next year, because it's just 18 days. So if you have a child that really has a chronic illness, it still counts. So I think Jim, I don't know whether he's talked to you about that or not. I know he was going to meet with each of the schools individually about your numbers, but
Right, yeah.
really looking at those kids that we can reach that are not doctor notes and doctor. We know that it's a documented illness,
Yes.
but it still counts.
Yeah. And we have some, they can get 10 days just on parent notes.
Yeah.
Just a parent writes a note, they get 5 each semester. So, that's 10 days right there. That's half of what you need. You go to the doctor 4 times, 5 times, and the next thing you know, you're at 20. So, that coming to school is not a priority for some people. I don't know why. I would like to correct that, but I'm not sure, the details of all.
18 days is a month of instruction,
Uh-huh.
because we have 20 days in a month of instruction.
Yep. And, we have a lot of kids that miss.
One whole month.
I know one right offhand. If I saw her 2 days out of the week, I was pretty lucky. And, again, she got days to make up her work because she was absent, and she got her work made up and passed miraculously and come 2-3 days a week maybe.
Consequences aren't there.
There's no.
And that's no fault of the school,
No.
any of our schools. It goes back to the court system, I would say, without a doubt.
Right.
Whenever the consequences.
And then
He filed over 400 petitions.
Court system's flooded.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm talking about this one, we've got, others that are in the same kind of boat, and, we had one student this year, he missed the first semester, never came to school but like 2 days. And they removed him from the home and put him in a facility, and he comes to school every day. So I don't know where the disconnect is, because this kid comes to school every day, is perfectly fine.
You mean
But
after he came back to-
After he went to a facility.
Right.
And they are in Harrison County, and he just came to our school because that's where he went to school originally. So they would bring him there every day, and he came to school every day, last 9 weeks and a half.
Do you see the attendance or the lack of attendance affecting the rigor of the courses?
Well, I think I don't know if it affects the rigor. I think that those students who miss those days don't get that teacher instruction. That's what they're missing, is they're missing that teacher instruction. You know, if I have a worksheet that goes along with what I hand them the worksheet. They don't get a video of me teaching that.
Right, well, what I was saying, what I meant was that you said the one girl had missed, and she just comes in, hands in her work, and she passes.
Yeah.
So do you think the rigor of the course is at a level where, because
Well,
of the attendance?
Well, I don't know about the rigor. I think that a lot of the grading that we do is, and this is everywhere, you've been there, is, compliance grading is what I like to call it. You do it, you hand it in, and you get a grade for it. It's not necessarily based on how many I got wrong or right, because it's practice or whatever. So the tests may be, but by the time, teachers have been all along, I guess given more compliance grades than they have test grades. So kids that don't do so well on tests can pass.
Should there not be a
So there we are.
Should there not be a penalty though that if they miss, they get to work, they make it up, they don't receive full credit?
You can't do that. I'm not sure you can do that, Doug. I'd like to say if it was an unexcused day, they didn't get it at all.
Well, my whole thing is,
Yeah.
where do we get to the point where the kid says, I can't miss school? I can't miss school. I've got to go to that class. Where do we get that? I can't miss the instruction.
How
do we get to that
I-
point?
I don't know. I don't know if that comes when they go to high school, Mary Frances, and it's actually credit. And if they don't pass the class and they have to retake it, I don't know if kids get it at that point, but in middle school, elementary school, that's not how that system's made, so it's tough.
Could she be one of the exceptions to the rule that she's a bright student?
No.
She is.
She needs to be in school every day.
No, I wasn't meaning she didn't need to be in school.
No,
I just wanted.
she needs to be there, Tom, to do the work. I think she could be a very bright student and do very well,
That may be what
but there's no
she-
motivation there to do well, so.
Do you follow up with a home call?
Yeah, I mean, we do all those things that we're supposed to do, and we meet with the parent, and, Jim files a petition, and it's in the stack of 400.
So it's back to the old, if it's in the cats, it's in the kids?
Well,
Sometimes.
the other thing is, I've always said that it's important if we make it important.
Right.
So I'm thinking, how do we make it important?
Well,
You know what I'm saying? How,
I don't know if I can make anything important to somebody else. It has to be within them, I can't.
well, I think it has to be in us first.
Well, I think it is.
You know what I mean?
I think we take our jobs very seriously and do pretty well. But again, I can love school and tell you come to school every day and make it fun, and, we can skip rope and do whatever we want to do and make it a play thing, and we, do all the things we're supposed to do. That still doesn't mean somebody's gonna come to school. They just may not be in tune with that, and a parent may not value that piece of education for whatever reason. It's a struggle to get them there every day.
I'm just. thinking
I know.
about that. I'm like,
Mary Frances, if you come up with some ideas, I
I
will
don't know.
gladly implement them.
I have to think on that.
I will gladly, because I can't find an answer. Like, I'll reward you, I'll give you ice cream, candy bars, whatever you want every day you come to school. I don't know.
That's the kid. And if you're at your grade level, if the kid doesn't get on the bus, it's the parent that brings them. So how do you get, it's important to the parent.
Yeah.
How do you make it important for them to know that it's important for the kid to be there?
Yeah.
I don't know what you do to fix that problem.
I
I mean, at the high school, yeah, it's different, where, because the kid says, I can't miss Dr. Santilli's class because I'm gonna miss my Spanish 3.
but Mary
Whatever.
Frances, hold on a second. The kids that we're talking about, they're not taking Spanish 3. They don't even take Spanish. They're just doing the bare minimum to get by.
But it doesn't mean that they can't,
Oh, no, you're right, they can. They're absolutely
because
can.
I think every kid has a potential,
Absolutely.
okay, to reach further than we're asking them to reach.
Yes.
To me, it's like you need to set the bar a little higher and get them to understand why it's that high and why they need to get there.
I got you.
And I know, but, and I don't know how you fix that.
That's it.
I'd love to use an example of a school, of probably 3 schools in the eastern part of our county as an example, because those are expectations from home.
Right.
And I know you've worked on that, Mr. Rogers. I've spent time with Mr. Rogers there for 2 or 3 months at a time at his school, and I know he was doing that. But it starts at home, and it has to change there in order for that attitude to come along with the child at school.
No, I agree.
But it's that eastern school that we're talking about.
And I think, Mary Frances, those that value education, they send their kids to school. That's 75% of people that we're talking about 25%, but 75% of the people do the right thing and they send their kids to school and they do what they're supposed to do. And that's where our focus lies a lot. Now, I know we're talking about 25%. We put a lot of effort and time into that 25, but I'd love to get everybody to value education, from the parents to the kids, to the grandparents, whoever's raising them. And a lot of these people had a bad experience maybe in school, and they don't see in their lives the need for that education to really matter and be important.
Is there any way to make a personal, I know the robocall calls,
Right,
the absence
right.
system,
Yeah,
your
we
child
call-
has
we
vision
call-
of it.
We call when they miss 3 unexcused days or more, we make that phone call.
Who does?
The principal or
The principal?
assistant, yeah.
What about the teachers?
Well, I mean,
I mean-
throughout the year, they'll make phone calls for kids when they see that they've missed a lot of days to try to find out what's going on or why are they there. Sometimes they don't even get a parent to answer, We get a lot of voicemails.
I know, but
and
sometimes
messages.
it's nice if you actually heard a real voice instead of the little robo voice.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Nope, I
If
got
you
you.
find sincerity in a voice, your kid
Yeah,
really needs it.
and we've had meetings with students that are, we send letters home in the first 9 weeks. And then we have meetings with kids that are on the bubble of being chronically absent at the semester. Sometimes it works and sometimes they look at you and go, I don't care what you say, I'm gonna miss whatever days I want to miss.
Dawn, if I can interject,
Yeah.
share your reverse open house that you did at the beginning of this year to try to make the connections.
Well, yeah, I mean, at the beginning of this past school year in the summer, we took a backpack with school supplies to every student in the Mountaineer Middle area. Some people were receptive to that, and we got to make those connections. Others weren't home. Nobody was home.
You did a bus, was that?
Nope, we didn't. We did cars. We drove around cars, and everybody took a handful of kids and went different directions. That was a logistical thing to try to get that to work right. And even ones that we didn't get to, we went back days later, and you still didn't have much of a response from parents. Somebody didn't answer the door. They'd say thank you, and that was it. Some were very appreciative, and others weren't around. And I think that's where we end up kind of in our area. And I hope I'd like to change that mindset to make education important and for kids to see that while they're in middle school, setting those work ethics, those skills, those soft skills that you need. Holy cow. Soft skills you need moving on as an adult. That's where you grow those. And, we talk to kids all the time about it. I don't care what you do for a job, just be the best, do the best at it and be the best, whatever you gotta be. And they don't see that anywhere else. They hear it from me, but they don't see it anywhere. They see me there every day. They see teachers there every day, and we're making those, but when they go home, they don't see that. And they don't understand. I don't think sometimes kids understand what they can have in life because they've never had it. And so they think that I don't, that I'm going to drive around a junk piece of car my entire life where I'm never going to be able to drive, a BMW or a Mercedes. But yes, you can, if you work hard and do the right things and take care of your money, you're going to be able to do those kind of things in life. Or they've never been to the beach. They've never been to, they've never been out of West Virginia. Heck, they might not have been out of Salem or Clarksburg or wherever they live because they can't afford to go anywhere. So that's, sometimes, field trips and things like that open some kids' eyes and they go, wow, and you see, did they realize that and they make that connection? How long that lasts? That's your telltale sign.
You have a source that's close to you that you wanna bring in, the pit bull.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't call her a pit bull. I mean, she's tough, but
You should've been a little tougher on you.
no, she was pretty tough on me. I would say so. I didn't get away with much. I definitely didn't stay home, with a bar of soap under my arm to try to get a fever. I was kicked out of the house and went to school. It didn't matter.
This may seem like an odd question, but the students that are chronically absent, do you talk to them, find out what they do during the day when they're not in school?
Yeah, sleep, stay home. So most of the time parents aren't there because, they play video games, they're on their phone, they're doing the things that are important to them. Sometimes we've all seen kids that, miss the bus intentionally and mom leaves and then they walk back home and stay home all day. You have that in high school, that's all the time. Not all the time, but you know what I'm saying. So,
Only reason I asked the question is because we have a different generation coming up, right? These kids now, they've always been exposed to digital learning, they've always been exposed to digital phones and digital, everything for them is at the touch of their fingertips.
Yeah.
Right? So they see what happened during COVID, where they learned digitally, where they learned at home. They see a lot of the work that's going on nowadays as remote work. And I don't know the answer to this, and I'm just throwing something out here, but if we kind of pivoted and maybe tried to reach them in a manner at home where we could, I don't know if we could count those days and give them instruction at home so that they're getting the instruction versus just sitting around playing, sleeping, playing. Maybe that.
If we did that, we'd be back to where we were COVID. Nobody'd be in the
Well, I
building.
know.
We'd all work remotely.
I know, I'm thinking differently from that standpoint, because if they're not gonna be in school anyway learning, they're gonna be sitting at home, why don't we try to get them to learn at home?
Well, I think it comes back to those soft skills that, that they need to be productive in society, and that means they've got to go to work every day. And as much as we tell the kids, hey, this is your job, that my mother held me accountable to that.
I can tell you, I sit home every day and I go to work, and I have for the past 10 years.
Right.
And I get up and I go to work every single day, right? But what I'm talking about is the willingness or the drive that you're talking about.
Right.
To get them to work.
Yeah.
Right? You can't just instill that, I understand that. But if we would do something to reach them at their mentality, I guess. is
I got
what I'm
you.
trying to say. What do they do?
Well, and I think the other part there, the conductor we run into is unless they turn that computer or that iPad on and log into where they're supposed to log in, unless you go to the house and sit there and go, let's go, you're supposed to be online. Why aren't you online?
Right, I understand.
Because there's no, that piece of it sometimes is missing. And that's a parent issue. I don't like to blame anybody, but
What's the kid's mindset? Why they're missing school? Why are they missing school? They just don't want to go.
they just don't want to be there.
Don't want to be there.
So, the percentage of the kids that aren't there and the ones that are chronic, are they bus students? Or do their parents bring them?
Well, I think it's a combination. I don't know if there's any right or wrong there. I think most of our students are bus students. Yeah, pretty much. But there's a few that pick up their kids. But those are typically ones that
So they're
are.
just not getting up and getting on the bus?
Yeah.
Well, then that's probably not the kid's fault.
Well, yeah. Again,
Just in my mind.
right. Yeah. No, I totally agree with you, if I'm allowed to, if when I was 12 and 13 years old and I could have got away with staying home one day, then I could have got to stay for 2 days, and then the next thing you know, it becomes a habit. Where does that habit stop? And You know, we have kids that throw a fit in the car because they don't want to go in the building. The parent brings them, drops them off, they throw a fit, they look like, and then the parent just takes them home because it's just easier. And again, I think it's learned behavior and I guess, kids crying, I mean, we've all had kids, they cry and bellyache and moan and complain until they get what they want. And then the next time when it doesn't get there, the next day, then it keeps going and keeps going and keeps going until you get there.
Mr. Rogers,
Uh,
what do you feel that you and your team at Mountaineer Middle, with this year being as tough as it has been for you all, what do you feel is the best accomplishment that you've had there to throw something positive in there?
Well, you're right. I think the one thing that I feel is a positive thing is later on down in my presentation, but we had SRDB, Southern Regional Education Board, in to work with our English and math teachers and to give them some strategies to work with kids and to try to use, we use some AI stuff, some different things to give them some strategies. And I think that was very, very productive for our teachers. And I don't know how that's going to calculate out. But again, they're coming back again this year, and all our teachers were very complimentary. Most of them were very complimentary on the strategies, and they implemented those things, which is nice to see in the classroom. So that's probably the number one positive thing is we were able to give some professional development to some teachers. Whether they tell you they need it or not, we all need professional development. We all need to reflect on our practices and try to do a better job every year. If you're not doing that, then you're just pushing paper and punching numbers. So being able to give them that professional development and time to work together in groups has been seen as favorable by our teachers, and things that will continue. Hopefully, even when we go to the new school, we'll be able to find ways, whether that's in the school calendar or whatever, to give that professional development time and to allow those teachers to flourish in areas they may struggle. So, okay. Again, down as far as I can go, down into the weeds there. OSS, about 95% of our students were not suspended for a level 1 or level 2 offense. Most of those are things in the classroom, disruptive behavior. Now, when you get to 5 or 6 disruptive behaviors, sometimes they do get suspended, but for the most part, 95%. And that'll get me pretty good numbers with the state. Excuse me. So action steps. Based on 23, 24, you can see there that most of those are implemented or will be or will continue to be. I think one of the things that we saw this year too, Tom, that's a pretty positive thing down to the last one, is we had a lot more parents involved in the school. We pop popcorn on Fridays for our kids, so that we had people in the building all the time, and they were there and they were seeing the kids and seeing what's going on and how we interact with them. And then they spread that word too, that it's a pretty good place to be. So we'll continue to do that moving forward and build those relationships with parents, grandparents, whoever comes in to help out. If you look down at the very end, the things we're going to do for this upcoming school year, most of it's in the summer. But you can see we've already had one training that we did with WI on improving classroom discipline and working with students that are disruptive in the classroom. So they got a little taste of that. It wasn't everybody. I really wanted it to be everybody because they all need to hear it and they all need to implement it. But you know what? We don't get that all the time. So when we come back at the beginning of the year, those that weren't there are going to get it, and we're going to get a refresher from me, and hopefully that gets better because we need to be a little more patient and a little more with our students in the classroom, and maybe that'll help out some of that attendance stuff too. SRSD, that's a writing module, and they use that in the elementary school. So we're going to implement some of that in the middle school and try to carry that on into the 7th and the 8th grade in all the science and social studies classes. Some co-teaching training. We're running about 110 special ed kids, and we have lots of co-teaching classes. So we have new people that haven't heard that presentation before, and some people that would need a refresher, and so we're gonna put that together for our staff. Now, again, that's not, something that everybody's gonna attend, but it would be something that everybody should attend. So hopefully that happens. We get most of them. SREB is gonna be here in the last part of July, first part of August. To work with our teachers, they're gonna do some mapping for bell ringers in the classroom, especially in our math program. So they're gonna have, specific math bell ringers that they'll do. When we come back around for day-to-day, we're gonna look to make sure that those bell ringers line up in math. So we have bell ringers for those weak areas that we see in each grade level. And hopefully that'll be something that we can carry on throughout the school year. Lastly there, Jimmy Cassis has been a real blessing to our school, and we wish more people could hear him. He brings a fresh message about hope and championing for kids and doing what's right. So he's going to work with our leadership team in August, ours and Washington Irving, to help prepare for that merger, number one, but also to give our leadership teams a kind of a refresher on, what their job is. It's just not to be, an oversight, but it's actually get in there and implement and be, leaders of the school. So we're excited about that as well. Any other questions from anybody? All right, guys. Appreciate your time. Mary Frances, I'll look forward to
The answer to my question?
the laundry. I'd love for the state to come out and say, here's what you did, here's what you do about chronic absences. That'd be great. But I don't think they have an answer. I don't know if anybody does, and it's frustrating. That not having an answer for kids being absent is frustrating. I was never absent. I don't know what it's like to stay home. I can't stay home now. I'm supposed to be on break. I've been to work 3 days.
I always heard, you don't retain the child after the third grade. That's all it preaches. Only thing I can say is, when we went to Washington Irving, we had kids that never came to school, kids that ran, did whatever they wanted to do, parents didn't care. And first year, I retained 32 kids.
I remember that, Doug.
And I'll tell you what, it went over like, I can't tell you.
Lead
how
balloon.
it went over like.
Lead balloon it did.
And the next year, they had the same teachers that they didn't go to that year. And then the next year, we only had to retain 18.
Yeah.
And then after 3 years, we had them all back in the course. And because they knew they could be, you can't retain me. Yeah. You can't retain my child. Yeah, we can, because we're not here.
Yeah, I think that's about the only thing that you have left to really hold out there. Past elementary school is if you miss, for high school, if you miss, a 90-day or 90-day semester, let's just say if you miss 40 of those days, you're not passing no matter what you do. And until that's set in stone, and that's got to be a state policy, that can't be a county board policy. Until they do something on that end, that's when you'll get kids to come to school, because when you call them and say, hey, by the way, you're on day 18, on day 20, we're retaining your child, and that's state law, and then they worry about those days. So.
If there's no consequence,
Right.
no assault.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, Lola, no.
You didn't have anything to.
So Lola works with the
Yeah,
She's just
the
my
grant
support
money.
today.
but it did have you listed in the
Yeah.
agenda. She got talked about.
That's okay. I'll let her have a call.
All right, moves us down to item 4, delegations. I don't believe there are any delegations. Superintendent's update.
Okay, I gave everyone a packet. I think it's just easier to go through the information that you may have in there, just to share, and then we'll get to Mr. Logan. There is, on the top, possible meeting dates. And Mr. Hendrick, yes, you did get these. So that first meeting, I don't know, there's some discussion, we're having the noon organizational meeting on July 2nd. And then the regular meeting scheduled for 1. I'm not sure if that's the board's desire, but you can let me know if you like to have that differently. The others are just the regular meetings, and of course, we'll fill in. We can only have 40 meetings with 5 special meetings, like their hearings or things like that, so.
I
we'll be
would
watching that.
see, I mean, I don't have anything in it, but I remember last time we did the organizational meeting, it took a total of 10 minutes and then we waited around for 15 minutes, so you might want to go to 12:30.
Do it quick. I mean,
Do a
that's-
lunch,
Yeah.
and then, or do,
No,
so
you
you
want
can get it
to
at
ask,
lunchtime.
yeah.
So we
I'd
can
say
do
one
that.
You have to have an actual start time of the regular meeting, so if you did 12:30,
Okay.
like, yeah, it's not going to take you. Because I remember last time we waited around till 1 o'clock.
Okay,
Well, it's up to you.
12 and then 12:30.
Yeah, just 10 minutes, I mean, it's 10, 15 minutes.
12, you don't want to do 12. 'cause he's-
12 and then 12:30, yeah. So Judge Matish is the one that will be doing our.
You said for 12, so.
The other thing in your packet, right underneath of that, is you had asked at the last meeting to get an opinion from Jason Long about the RFP that was put out for the agent of record, and that is there. He sent us a short paragraph, didn't find any discrepancies or anything wrong with the process, and he was sent everything that we had. So that's there. The next thing is really important. We worked with the calendar to determine the excess levy schedule. And of course, there's there's deadlines we have to meet. And so, looking at your calendar, if you go, we counted, those green dates are counting back, so we meet with the timeline. My question to you is, the election is in November. We have to run it in November. And if you look in July, we have a July 2nd meeting, and that is the organizational, and then that'll be 12:30, the second one. Then we have a regular meeting on the 16th. How many work sessions do you think you would like to have for the levy? And do you want them back up, like you want to do a 5 and a 6 on your regular meetings? Because we have a regular meeting on the 16th, and then you would have really 2 in July.
So we have
Or-
until the 20th then, right, to
The 20th, we have to have it adopted if you look on the 26th, and then the last day to get it to the county clerk is actually the 27th, when we count it back. So we have really, I mean, you can have a special meeting. We could do one on the 16th prior to the regular meeting. Like a work session, and then we could do another one. I just don't know what your desire is about how many meetings.
I'd
You
like
think
to
one
have,
meeting?
I'd like to have at least one or two work sessions on the levy, is my thought. If we
Okay.
can
I have to
combine.
go under
You could have-
advisement because I've never done one, so
I think you're also going
Frankie
to
says
have
too.
another one somewhere before the election in order to clean up and tidy up and see any areas that you need to.
Not before it has to go to the clerk.
Well,
You
yeah, on
can't,
that,
once it goes to the clerk, you're done.
can't change anything.
so probably if you look at that August 20th date,
August
that's
27th,
where,
you're done.
yeah.
Did you not have something?
So that regular meeting on August 20th.
Does that not require a public hearing as well?
Before we ever send it in?
So we could have our July 2nd organization. we have the
Right.
16th,
And then have another one?
August 20th, that's the date.
and the 6th.
There's no public hearing required.
There's the 21st.
actually we voted on it.
Right. Well, okay.
So everything really needs to be decided on by the 20th,
Yeah,
August 20th.
because it has to go.
That's when you're going to vote on it.
Okay, but that way you can at least have
So,
another meeting in August, just to clean up any loose ends before
So
it has
you
to
want-
go to
It should be August 6th.
August 6th, July 16th, I would say let's do an hour, maybe a half an hour before.
do
regular
a
meeting,
5, 5 o'clock.
And then August 6th, do another meeting,
A 5 o'clock.
5
Yeah.
o'clock. Give us an hour to kind of go over
And
things.
then if needed, we can
Do a special
maybe
meeting.
put one in the next week if you don't feel like you're ready on the 6th. How's that? We can decide that at that meeting and call one for the next week.
we'll start a Blitz campaign.
And then the next, this is just for information only, our summer school numbers, not as great as we would like, but as you can see, Energy Express is at Northview, so they're registering their own. We're not sure how many are scheduled there. And then, just an update, that's what we have registered, that starts on June 24th. It's only 11 days, except for Mountaineer Middle, and you have Project Isaac, and it's a full day program. So it's a different funding source.
And have you had any more registered for it?
Not that I'm not in charge of that. That's under a different group. They had some, they always get a few that come the first day.
Some of them will get on the bus and show up, and we take
Show
them.
up, yeah.
So
We
we
just
don't
send the paperwork
stop.
home with them and let them fill it out.
And
And
we
some will show
already-
up, some will show up, you'll have some that'll show up 5 days this week.
And how many instructors do you have?
I think there's 3 or 4.
We have plenty for the number of students that we have.
Well, that's what I'm saying, we're gonna have more, almost gonna have more instructors than you are students.
Yeah, and sadly, you can't prepare for that,
For 11 days, it's not gonna hurt if you have one-on-one.
We have asked anybody that's teaching this summer to please not miss. And we had some that would come in and then take a week's vacation, but since it's 11 days, we said the expectation is you're gonna be there the whole 11 days. So I think we're well-staffed. We do have the funding we still have that last round of funding for summer programming. So then we are doing credit recovery in those sites. Next year, it'll be reduced even more. We'll have probably a credit recovery site. We'll have an elementary site and then a middle school site and a high school site. So to reduce that down, so we're competing with a lot of things over the summer.
At Nutter Fort, are those just Nutter Fort kids?
No. Nutter Fort is pulling from the Victory area. Where else is that? It's mainly Nutter Fort, it's Northview. Northview has some that goes to Energy Express, depending on what they prefer.
Salem area.
Salem. And there's a bus.
At another Fort, Salem.
And who's at Johnson? Simpson?
Johnson's Big Elm, Simpson, Johnson,
West Milford,
Lumberport.
West Milford, Long Creek.
And they do have buses available.
And
That should not
who's
be-
at Bird?
Same area, it's the same feeder area.
Oh, okay.
The Nutter Fort area, the Liberty.
Okay.
We tried to really strategically look at that on previous numbers. I think the one we were wrong on was Lincoln High. I think we thought we'd have more over in that area. So we're trying to adjust. At this point, if we have a teacher that is willing to move, we're asking them to move. So they have to agree with that. Now, we did get some good news the month of June. We always have an audit, our annual audit for special ed. They come in and spend quite a bit of time. They actually visited random schools this time, pulled IEPs, so we did meet requirements for that. You'll see that again when they come out with the county's rating for each of the departments. So we gradually get these in. We got that one, and then Mr. Gibson, he's not here, I'm bragging him a little bit. He came into the job, went into his first audit, went to most of the schools, and they were complimentary of him, said he gave them, there were 3 items that he had to correct, and he got that in time, and they closed us out, and we met all of the things for our child nutrition. And he's also been working this summer, he's jumped right in for the summer feeding program. He's really truly wanting to learn that process and to work through that, so. Those were 2 good news. The other thing in here is, just for your information at this point, it involves a piece of property at Quiet Dell. I just included everything about the property, and down in that packet on May 17th, 2010, this board, I think it was President Howe at the time, they worked with the county commission, the property was given to the commission and it was theirs, and they were operating the
Civilian Conservation
Yeah,
Corps camp out there. There's some historical buildings.
yeah, and I think they did some work to the building and they were running it there as a museum and.
The county was, they wanted the organization, if I jump in,
That's okay.
wanted the county to do some work on the buildings. The county at that time didn't feel comfortable putting tax dollars into a nonprofit, so they wanted the property. Obviously, school board didn't really have a use for it, so they did, but then they put a covenant in there that if they quit using it for that, it comes back to the school. So,
For $10.
so they're wanting to divest of that, so I don't think that this board wants some more property. They are planning on selling that, and they're asking the board to basically redo it to waive that covenant that we get back the property.
Then they appraise the property. When they sell it, they're willing to give us half of what they make off of that property. Trey Zimmerman is the county commission attorney, and he called me, just ran it by me, told me he was gonna send me this information and then get back to me about it. And so this is the information he just sent me. And by the way, Trey just had a brand new baby girl. Didn't know that. She was born like yesterday.
Mr. President, is this something that we don't have to act on now until we look it over?
Yeah, it's not an actionable item here. so-
Yeah, I actually can put it on a meeting for motion if you choose to do that. So you can look this over and then let me know. The county commission is wanting to divest themselves of property. I think we've been working to do that with Mr. Lopez to get our properties cleaned up. And so they're kind of doing the same thing. And she said what the process will be, Trey did, is that they will appraise this property and all the properties that they wish to sell. Come back with that appraisal amount. They do all the work. They do the deed searches. They do all the work. And then they put it up for sale. They ask to get the appraisal price. They try to get the appraisal price. And then they told us they would give us half of it. So it's up to you all. I've heard different numbers of the value of that piece. I heard $100,000 today from somebody. So I know there is a developer interested in this piece. So that will be, if you look it over and then maybe I'll touch base and we can get it on an agenda.
Would the July 2nd regular meeting agenda be something to put it on? Is that too soon for anyone?
We have the June 27th meeting as well, that noon meeting, if you wanted to, this depends on. July 2nd, I asked her the timeline
27th?
for fees and.
27.
27th?
Yeah, but I mean, we were just doing the closing.
Yeah, so maybe that
And this is kind of,
July, or the second July.
it's kind of a thing because I would more than likely accuse myself anyway, as county commission employee, so this is probably something that I think,
I would say maybe July 2nd then,
Yeah.
probably be a better meeting.
On the 12:30 meeting, the regular meeting.
Yes.
I can do that. And if Trey sends me any more information, I can get it to you on that. And he, like I said, I've heard two different numbers on the value of the property.
Now, it looks like the tax ticket from 2014 shows the assessed value at 160,000. Appraised value at 160,000.
Just thinking trading $10. $50,000.
Well, that's why you have it to think about, because it is technically our property,
yeah.
correct?
I will say there are no minerals, there are no oil and gas rights. It doesn't look like there's any. Other than the
I
property
think
and
Mr.
value.
Lopez would like to have it back and we can start cutting the grass there.
That's the grass.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
$160,000, we paid for a lot of grass cutting.
Yeah.
Just a little piece of that, yes.
Well, half of it.
I did ask them what their timeline was, and Mr. Zimmerman said that sometime in July. So, but
That would make it easier. like,
if you guys look
simpler
that
for
over,
me.
think about it, and I can put it on for a motion, and then you can decide, or we'll take care of it then. The other thing I have for superintendent's update is your policy binders. Thank you to Rebecca and Tammy. It is digital. I think David worked
That
with
looked digital to me.
Rebecca. There is a digital. We have some paper people, so we wanted to make it available. We did have some teacher groups look at the binders. They've had them and came back with positive, very positive comments. There's a couple things we're looking at with them. Appreciated their comments. Always great to hear from them to let us know what, if they have certain things they're looking for. Thanks to Rebecca. It's been a, what did you call it today?
Labor and love.
Labor of love. She literally has looked at
It's my baby and it's ready to leave the nest.
state policy, federal policy, everything with that. And then Doug has a UTC update, but I want to check with Mr. Lopez on facilities. I know our cleaning crews are out working.
Yeah, so things are going pretty well. We get through this last week in June. We'll be back at the full force, had a lot of vacations with the actual maintenance guys. We do have our summer temporary crews in there. And then of course our 250, some of our 250-day employees are still intermixed with those groups. And it's going very well. Met with Danny at length today. The other thing is, and I know before we get to the motion, we did receive the bids, came in well under, like 2.65 million under the project budget. But there's soft costs involved there. And able to ask the board to accept a alternate, which is to raise the height of the multi-purpose from 16 feet to 20 feet. To make it a little easier to shoot basketball and have activities in there. So it was for $111,000. I would strongly recommend.
Still leaves us under budget.
Under budget by, 2.5 million per grade. So, other than that, we did some more interviews today for bus drivers, and I know we're a long way from school from starting, but not really. We have a class that will be starting probably next week, and a class of about 8. And we have right now about 7 substitutes. So we're in pretty good shape. We haven't lost a lot of drivers. That could happen anytime, but usually if they're going to retire, you kind of know. So we're probably going to be able to start the year in good shape and get this class completed.
Thank you, Mr. Lopez. We had a longtime driver pass away. Yeah.
Keith Gaines is
Keith Gaines.
he's from the South Harrison area. I graduated from South Harrison High School, but he drove out of Bridgeport Terminal, a true leader from within. He was the kind of guy that was always setting up dinners. He handled the trips. He was a peacekeeper, very unselfish, just a great guy. And he can lose those kind of guys. He can lose anyone. But those leaders from within your workforce that make a huge impact on the school system.
Mr. Hammond?
Yeah.
This question, please.
Oh, sure.
Mr. Lopez, all the work in the schools this summer, the painting, the floors, the cleaning of every room and all that, where does that money come from? Is that a levy thing?
A lot of that money does come from the levy.
The majority of it to pay for the,
Yeah, for facilities, yeah, that's
okay.
a very large amount.
And obviously, without that, we wouldn't be able, without the levy, would be kind of bare bones of doing any of
We're
that.
very fortunate in what we're able to do through the summer to prepare our schools. And the levy is a huge piece of that, not to talk about any other school systems, but I've traveled all over the state. Harrison County is second to none when it comes to facilities, cleanliness, and the upkeep. It's pretty fortunate. And,
Yeah, if I can
it's
say,
the expectation in Harrison.
our facilities are on site better now than they were years ago. Our transportation department, we struggled for years with trying to find substitute bus drivers. And even though we could always use more, we haven't had that for years. And if I'm leaving, I really appreciate that.
Mr. Hood has a UTC update.
Okay, they, on May the 8th, they got the official recognition of being exemplary school in the state, and they're very proud of that on him. He just went on and on. He was one of two technical schools that received the recognition. And so I think that's kudos to Harrison County as well as Doddridge and Taylor. Also,
I win chance.
We didn't even have to hang them up.
Jesus. I'm in a meeting. Okay, sorry. All right. Also, their enrollment so far is projected for over 400 for the start of the year. They're also accepting now sophomores into the program. So they feel that that's going to, once that gets out, that they're, some schools send them, some schools don't. Right now, Lincoln, for whatever reason, has chosen that they did not want to send sophomores to the Career Center, and they have in the past. So they're going to try and get that worked out, try and find out why. And Allied Health had 30 to 35 completers, and they're all out there and they're all working. And the trouble is, a lady, Kim Balkman, is leaving the Career Center after 18 years. She's going to go to West Virginia West End College as an instructor there in their health program. And they was able to hire Mackenzie Matheny for the Allied Health position, and she'll take over for her, and they don't feel that they're going to lose a beat in that situation. Also, these 30 to 35 are all out there, and they have places to work. There are nursing homes and other areas. They're all out there working right now in their field of study. So he's very pleased with what's going on. They're getting ready to do some remodeling down there. They've been seeking out grants and what have you, and so they're going to get some remodeling and add on to some things down there. So him and his assistant, Mr. Frazier, they're very, very, very excited as to how things are going, and we kidded Mr. Frazier pretty heavy about him finally signing a new contract, and he said, "Well, what's with me? It was my son that signed the contract." We said, "Well, we figured you'd get half of Zach's contract when he signed it."
For the
For the Steelers, So he was the last one to get signed up for him. But he's very proud father, and I thought that was pretty good too. But Kim Baldwin is going to continue to be a substitute instructor if they get into a situation, since she would come back and be a substitute instructor. So sounds like things are going in the right direction down at the Career Center.
Thank you. The Mackenzie Matheny that's taking the place of Kim Baldwin was a South Harrison graduate nurse.
Yeah.
So we were proud of that. Thank you.
That brings us down to consent items. We'll take items A, B, and D. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to accept consent items as presented, items A, B, and D.
Is there a second?
Second,
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
a question on the denial. The Aubrey Edwards. Is it D?
Yeah, A, B, and D. No, A, B, and D.
Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
just took C as separate.
That's wrong.
Is it it's done with the gray area?
Not that. The town of Stonewall on Cost Avenue,
Okay,
their RCP.
okay.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item C, renew Encova Insurance Company workers' compensation coverage, 2024-2025 fiscal year. That's the same company we're currently
Same
with.
company.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. New business, out-of-state travel study request. In front of you. It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 2024-2025 Board of Education meeting dates, and they're in that packet. And as I always say with meeting dates, it doesn't much matter. You might as well approve them because we change them as we go. If you can't be there,
We don't want to change it right now.
right, exactly. So,
Second one.
so, you have to put one out at the beginning of the year, but it's a fluid document, depending on 5 members of the board. Someone needs to move something here and there, or the superintendent does. So is there a motion to accept them as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
With the note that
The time change on July
Time change on
2nd.
July 2nd from 1 o'clock to 12:30.
Yes.
Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item C, Siemens Industry proposal to provide safety alert notification system. That's something we've been working on for a while. So is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the Siemens Industry proposal to provide a safety alert notification system
In the amount of,
in the amount of $345,579.29,
is there a second?
not to exceed a cost of $345,579.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion? All those in favor?
Just kind of give us an overview again of what this is entailing.
Mr. Poole, you wanna? We have the first, well, it really wasn't in phases, but it was the safety alert buttons, running the cabling is what the first part was.
Well,
This is now the notification beacons,
yeah, it's,
screens.
this was supposed to have been done originally in 3 different phases. And the first phase was basically a silent button for code red. What this allows us, this also covered our gymnasiums with an alert monitor and radio to 911 and server environment programming and a variety of other things. What you have before you now is kind of phase 2 and 3 because it has been an extended period of time to get this to the finish line. So what this does is it upgrades us to their cloud version. So we'll still have an on-prem server. However, that's just a communication device on-prem to the cloud. Still controls the radio. So all the components of phase 1 will still be utilized. This also expands the communication device from a single button, which we will still incorporate in the offices, to a multi-button so that they can trigger any of our codes directly with one button. So you got a button for code red, a button for code yellow, a button for code blue, orange, and so forth. And I can give you some examples of how that could benefit us, but this also expands the communication signage, which is an LED sign and speaker, to the cafeterias and the band rooms. So early on, we heard from the band teachers that when they're rehearsing and they can't hear. We got the gymnasiums covered, but in the cafeterias, obviously, the decibel level is pretty high in there. This also incorporates the integration with our PA systems or intercom systems within the building. So when you get that message, it's going to go all over the building through the intercom, cafeterias, signage, in those loud rooms. One thing that came up since we last presented this was glass breakage, and that's coming from the State Department, that they'd like to have glass breakage sensors in our buildings, and that's actually on the form when they go around. So we've incorporated that, a wearable lanyard that can trigger alarms, and those beacons that seem to come up every year, so that people know when there's a code, a building's on code, when they approach a building, they'll know, including our bus drivers. So we can customize all this. And just to give you the example of the power and the benefit, so imagine it's 2:30, buses are pulling up, and the building's on code yellow or code blue. Not only can the bus drivers see the beacons, but also when that button's triggered, we can send that alert to whoever. So imagine code blue at 2:30, Mr. Lopez's transportation supervisors get a notification via text, via computer, and they're immediately going to know that so-and-so school's on code blue. They can radio, and as an additional layer to the bus drivers, that, hey, there's a code blue at number 4, wherever, and then it's going to be an extended period of time. They can actually put out a message to parents to let them know that the buses are going to be running late this afternoon. So, and we run into this regularly, so it's nothing unusual.
Who triggers
The office,
the office at the school or this county office?
the school office. Yeah, they're going to know when there's code blue or code yellow. So, yeah. We would have the capabilities of being able to trigger that from here.
I would say if
They're gonna
there's
know that
something
first. Yeah, we're not.
catastrophic countywide or something, is there a trigger for the county office?
Oh, yeah,
Trigger that,
we could trigger it if we needed to,
in other
if
words,
there's something
okay.
larger, but
It's just
typically
like,
the school's going to know before we would.
so the superintendent has like where it pulls out and if she pushes the button,
It would probably be a soft button,
okay.
She would probably call Todd.
Mr. Fulton,
That's okay.
is there anybody, any counties in the area using the total system that we would have?
Not a total package like this. This is something that WVU has. Again, these systems like this are a shell, and then you can kind of customize them however you want. If you go on university campuses, sometimes you'll see those little blue lights and on the telephone and alert in parking lots, and that's all part of a system similar to this. As a matter of fact, this system, when we were doing phase 1 of this system, they were actually doing WVU at the same time. So again, you can customize these however you want. So to do a lot of different things.
And add on to it as you go.
You can, yep. And the question came up is, are we done? Well, I think we're done with the 3 phases, and I have, once we put things in place, sometimes the school will go, well, we kind of like to have a, beacon here would be more beneficial, or, that kind of thing. And, there's going to be probably some odds and ends.
Or someone will invent something bad.
What's that?
Or someone will invent something
Yeah.
new and bad.
And then, yeah, we'll react.
Like
to that.
vaping, you didn't
Yep.
worry about 10 years ago.
There's a lot you can do. We've had discussions with child nutrition about freezer monitoring. So there's, lots of different things that you can do with systems like this, and they're just customizable.
What did you say about the badges? Something about I was thinking you said something about the badges.
Did I say something like that?
I think the
All the
land.
beacons, or not beacons, the lanyards, or buttons that are wearable, so that somebody can trigger whatever alarm, so if it's code red or something, they can actually have that on their person, so to speak, to be able to trigger an alarm. Fire alarm monitoring too is part of this as well, and we don't currently have that in place. We've had situations where fire alarms were going off for, quite some time, and we had no idea, if it was a break, Christmas break. So the only fire alarms that are monitored is City of Clarksburg, and that's the only requirement. The rest of the schools are not required to have that, but we've had quite a few situations where fire alarms going off, we didn't know.
So who would have access to it, like say at Christmas? So that if the
For a
fire alarm?
Well, Mr. Lopez, myself, possibly, Mr. Snyder, the school principal could have access to that and get that notification. Again,
Yeah, I got a call one night at 11 o'clock. That Nutter Ford had been going on for hours.
we had.
That's what I'm saying.
When we still in the Adamson building, this was just last year, I don't know how anybody didn't see that, the whole building's flashing for days. I mean, it's right there beside Tony's Ice Cream, I don't know how anybody.
So that's
didn't see
because they look at Tony's first.
it. Yeah, well, I do too. Yeah.
Down the-
Yeah.
Anything else? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we had a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item D, Simpson Nutter Ford Elementary renovation project. We heard from Mr. Lopez earlier on that, so is there a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the Simpson Nutter Ford bid results for Mr. Marty Construction. Amount of $5,166,400 with a alternate for the Simpson multipurpose ceiling height, the amount of $111,000.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second,
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
yeah, can it be attached to it that, there be no change orders since it's new construction?
I don't think you could put that on there, but I would just ask that our
And that's
architect,
that's our expectation. But you never know.
I have those concerns.
Yeah. We'll certainly make sure we address that prior to construction.
And like I said, I think our architect will be on top of it, just to make sure that we're watching, because we've been very lucky with Henley Associates and very few change orders.
So is that the same architect from before?
From the first time that they did, no, they didn't know.
It was a different
Yeah, it
architect.
was a different architect. So we used to have, on other projects, we had numerous change orders. We had very few with McKinley. With that,
Why is it that Veritas gave two separate bids for Simpson and Nutter Ford and the other ones did not?
So you have so they could have bid individually on those. The other two chose not to. They chose to do it together. And,
So then we're just stuck with the other one being together, right?
well, the problem is that there's much higher. It's higher.
Combined.
But when you combine the two of those together.
Right,
the-
great.
From.
Because if you took a low one on, they bid them separately and they had a low one and a high, you took the low, then you'd have to move it out,
That's,
the other one.
you would.
So you want to take two, because the others will do it cheaper if they can do two.
But I found that kind of odd, because this is the first time that we've had to bid something out like this. That,
And I will say, with one company, going two is probably easier on.
It probably is. And I know sometimes, people say, well, I hope we get different contractors on each project. But these contractors all have other projects going on. So in our the locality of this, the proximity, I don't think.
But I guess to answer
That's all.
your question, let's say there were another couple of contractors that bid separately, and you had a low and a low, you could do that, but since you only had one bidding separate.
Yeah.
And then you've got these other two that bid them together, if you did take one that was low separate, then you'd have to go rebid the other project.
Right.
And you may end up having a higher one, it should be, so that's why most would rather take both, because they're not huge projects. So they want both to try to make their money on, so it's understandable. If that answers the question, I know it's.
I just didn't know why
Yeah.
one did separately
Yeah.
and then the others did not.
They all.
Is that what, their own choice to do that?
Yeah.
Oh.
And because when we first did that, they said, for the Nutter Ford project, city construction, no bid. When I first heard that, I thought, what do you mean no bid? Where you heard it And then I realized that there was two ways that they could bid on it individually. Now, if they would have all bid individually, then you could have paid. But without that, in essence, they could have just submitted their bid if they had none, in hindsight, just put it together.
And they're just saying we'll take both, or else we have to take our guys off of a project to come do one smaller project. So there's a lot of that in. Just a bid on a project, it's a rather expensive thing.
And by law, we have to take the lowest bid.
Unless there was a, unless the SBA had them on list.
They're not.
So with that, we have a motion and a second. All the, no further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Old business math textbook adoption. Revision. Yes, there's a revision. So what's that? We adopted this, I thought.
We did, and the West Virginia Department of Ed, it has to do with the billing and purchasing piece. I think it's the technology part. No, it is, but we're still using James Law.
No.
The consumables,
After,
the consumables. We used to be able to do those yearly, like annually, you could order your consumables. Now we have to do it all at one time.
The textbook company won't get, they're gonna charge a much higher price for us to order consumables. Right. And so they bundled everything. Now they bundled everything, they pay for things you basically not receiving, because money is still good. So we had to work out the system. The James Law still want to give their percentage of the stuff they want to do. We'll have to do it in agreement, they're going to warehouse.
Yeah, it's with schedule. We don't want to warehouse.
Yes, and
We've had that.
So we'll order them all.
Order it all, put it in the warehouse until we need it.
Yes.
Yeah. And
Yes.
it'll be
There
obsolete.
you go.
Reserved for storage fee.
Yeah.
Right.
We said
Which
that.
is
we don't
still
tell
gonna
the
be cheaper
county
than
that's doing that here with Jamie Law.
What's our storage fee?
Yeah.
I say, we don't tell the county that's doing it with Jamie Law.
Right.
Which is good.
Yeah, we switched a few years ago.
Where are the items?
they.
Yeah, they're warehouse.
And the problem with us doing consumables, we don't have space, nor we have to make sure that it is quality control, air quality control, so they don't go dampness.
And the bigger issue too, there's more to warehousing books than just warehousing books. You have to unpack them, you have to stack them, and we almost lost some employees over the last time. And we decided we could do a better job than James and Lowell. And we almost lost our entire warehouse staff because they were,
And we didn't add these down. We expected them to do all.
yeah, they just, it's like, here's the books, unbundle them, and they never come in the same box. And they would open a giant box and there'd be 50, and then they'd
The
open this
teachers
giant box
manual.
and they'd spend their entire time doing that. And they about left us, so.
Yep.
It's a service, James Law does a service that's well worth it, so.
So we are being utilized by the state to set up an MOU for the rest of the state to follow?
No.
What is that statement?
We might have to get into an individual MOU.
So what does it say right here, the template?
It just says that they're gonna give us a template that we can use.
Oh, okay.
All right, with that, we had a motion in a second, correct?
Oh, no.
No. Is there a motion?
Yes, so moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Now we get down to policy updates and the most convoluted thing that you'll hear in the history of Board of Education. So I guess I will preface this by saying the legislature in their infinite wisdom has decided to give boards of education a raise without giving them a raise. So what they say is instead of $160 a meeting, you will make $260 a meeting. Once you approve it as the board, so you have to agree to take the raise. But with that, we're going to drop the number of meetings from 50 down to 40. But the folks who are currently in office in this term cannot get the 260. So all they did was lose 10 meetings. Correct, am I
Yes,
saying it
you're
correct? So
perfect.
what we have to do is we have to approve the board members, Ms. Santilli and Mr. Hoag, getting $260 per meeting, July 1st, for 40 meetings. But at the same time, the other 3 board members have just taken a pay cut because they will get $160 a meeting for 40 meetings. So if you,
Yeah, this is the one policy we pulled out of the manual. And we just put per meeting at the highest rate set by the state statute. That way you're never.
right,
paid.
so
We don't have to go back in and vote.
the
on
2 members
this
with a
again.
new term starting will receive a $2,400 raise, 10,400, am I correct? Sound right? But the current existing board members will go from 8,000 for the year down to 6,400. So thank you for the pay raise, legislature, because it really worked out great. So we're going to have people throughout the state sitting on school boards next to each other, making different amounts of money.
It's already, you know,
Yeah,
a third is,
If it's passed, and like I said, it doesn't affect, and I know that you're supposed to pass it, with the people, it doesn't, that's why you can't enrich yourself in the current term you're in. That's why the 3 of you, it's not gonna affect, it's gonna affect, Mr. Hoag and not, but it's not gonna affect me at all, so, is there, I guess we'll get a motion in a second to put it out there so you guys can discuss it amongst yourself. I'm just saying it's the most asinine thing I've ever heard in my life.
There's been a lot of
Asinine
information about it.
things. That's-
He would have to recuse himself to vote. This is actual policy that we need to have in place. The thing that you need to vote on the policy to change the rate. You need to decide when you want the effective date to be. Do you want it to be effective July 1 for the new board members, or make it effective July 2026 and everybody gets it?
but
That's the 2 things that,
but in
That was from
2026,
Jason
that's
Long.
when there's a
Everybody.
new election. though.
yeah, everybody, but this policy would put it in place for
I'm saying
2026.
everything-
It's the effective date that you need to decide on.
It's the
But we have to vote on this regardless.
Right, the understanding is the way that you've written policy states that you can, we can vote to accept a policy that whatever the state puts the pay max at,
They
the board
change it.
will automatically,
Yes.
there's no reason to vote on it coming in the future.
There were only 2 counties that had it that
And
way.
so if we vote on that policy, then we need to take a separate vote for Dr. Santilli and Mr. Hoag.
You have to tell me what the effective date would be. When would you want this policy to be in effect? Now, which would affect Doug and Dr. Santilli, or?
By now, you mean July.
Yes.
Yes, by July 1, or do you want it to be in effect 2026 to be equal among all, starting in 2026? And you have to, in order for it to be 2026, it has to be voted on before July 1 of this year.
Misery loves company, right?
So,
No, I'm okay with voting on it. I'm okay with voting to increase for the staggered amounts. I think that would be appropriate for me. I would vote for the 2 to have the $260 meeting at the 40 meetings. I would vote to accept the policy as they're going to present
I'm
it.
not, because it's a slap in your face. You've been on the board for how many years?
10.
I can see Mr. Hoag, I can't see a new member, has nothing to do with you at all. You just have to be a new member. And that's like hiring somebody off the street and giving them the same amount of money for a job that the person's been doing for 12 years, or somebody's been doing for what, 8 or 10 for you? I don't care. As far as what, if I'd ever get a raise.
I'm in
And
the same
I'm
boat.
stating that.
I'm in the same boat. I didn't get into this for the money, because there sure isn't any there. I'll tell you that. But but I don't want to hinder, the progress moving forward, right? And I think if we put this policy in place, then we're effectively saying to other boards, listen, we're taking that, you don't have to vote on it going forward. And if the state does give increases in the future, then you're taken care of, and there's no reason to vote on it.
If it's takes effect for whoever's sitting here in 2026, then everybody would start at the same, whoever.
all 5 would be on the same.
That's mine.
But those that are on the board, Ms. Santilli and myself, we're already 2 years into our next term, so then there was going to be 2 years, and those coming in 26, will be there for the 4-year term.
And I'm 2 years in.
What's
So, I
that?
mean, I'm 2 years into the term too.
Yeah,
But again, this means nothing to me, 160 or 260. So whenever 2026 comes along, whomever is sitting in these 5 chairs right here would come in at the same together. And start off together, whether whoever that would be.
And the state may end up doing something.
We still have to have a policy saying that we get whatever.
And the ethics committee rendered an opinion, correct?
Yes, and this is the opinion.
And this is the
And this was
opinion.
from Jason Long as
Yeah.
well.
This is the opinion.
Yeah,
the ethics
and this
committee
policy was written, we had a draft one, and then Jason Long looked at this. I know multiple counties around us are looking at the same one. And the earliest that all 5 can get the raise is 2026. And if you want the staggered rates, it has to be adopted before July. So that's your decision.
So if you accepted it, here's my question. If you accepted a higher rate, which we can accept the higher rate, but don't put the date on it, and you're saying in order to do it, 2026, you'd have to do it now, like
Yes.
2026 even.
Yeah.
So either way. So if you did accept the higher rate, but then the state went ahead and changed something the next month or so, and you accept the higher rate, because you could go through this exercise of futility, and they could change it next week or the week after anyway.
We're just trying to meet that was the July 1 deadline. If you voted for this policy right now, whatever way you want to do it, the board comes back to change it, you just bring the policy back and make it effective now.
You could change the effect. I mean, I think
Because
that,
the amount won't matter.
and I understand where Mr. Tucker's coming from, and I understand where everyone's coming from here, because, yeah, you're leaving money on the table, but
Well,
at the same time, I
you're
think,
Still here.
yeah, I think I think it creates some, issues, maybe not with this board, because the board gets along with. If you've got a board in another county, it's gonna become an issue when someone's sitting next to them making more to do the same job. And what if you have a board member that really goes out of their way, attends every function, all that, and they're at the lower rate, you've got someone that shows up 5 minutes before the meeting and they're making a higher rate, it's gonna cause issues. But the funny
Across
thing,
the state.
yeah, and the funny thing is the legislature not only does this, but then they say, here, you need to vote.
Figure it out.
We're gonna let you,
Figure it out.
we're gonna let you vote on it and put yourself out there.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, however someone wants to crux the, motion, because we're gonna have 2 different sides here, so, whoever wants to make that motion to accept it, and then with what date. It doesn't affect me one way or another, but I'm just mad about they should have just done what they were gonna do, make it effective whatever day. But the legislature could have done that and said effective today,
Yes.
but since we have to accept it, the Ethics Commission won't let you enrich yourself in the term that you're in. So they left it back to the school board, whose hands are tied, when they could have, fixed the whole thing. But I don't think they're really interested in local school boards.
It's kind of equivalent to the Chinese, you open the box and there's a part missing in there,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
they're sitting over there laughing about it, that's what I
Doug
see.
has to recuse himself, so you'll have 4 voting on that. You have-
Well, and
But you
it's
can
all gonna
vote
matter.
because you're,
Huh?
you're.
Oh, I can
not
vote, yeah, absolutely, but what it's gonna come down to is, someone needs to put a motion out there, to accept the higher rate and which date, they're gonna choose.
So I'll put the motion out there, and then if it gets seconded, then we'll go forward. If it does not, then we'll know where it's at. So I'll make the motion to accept the compensation policy as prescribed in the agenda and with the effective date of July 1st, 2024.
Is there a second? Is there a second? Dies for lack of second. That was for the 2024. Correct. Does someone want to put it out there to accept that? Because I believe you should accept the higher rate, but at the other time. I mean, we have to accept the higher rate or
Oh, yeah, then you're 28,
Right. You'd be
28.
18.
We don't-
So,
Yeah.
you know, if someone wants to make that, to accept that higher rate effective July 2026, then that would be what Mr. Tucker is.
I'll make the motion that we accept that high rate of 2026.
Second.
For whoever the five were that said.
It's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And like I said, that could all change because they can come back
It
and
does.
change the
And
day.
I'm very realistic, you know, it'll change.
But they-
Oh, they're working on it
They'll
every
take-
day.
They'll take
They have
something
a
away.
special
It
session.
ain't
Take
gonna
more
change.
away.
Jim Brown,
Change it wrong.
Jim Brown done said
Hey, Rebecca, we have one policy right now. There's your one.
It's a whole book to do that. But you-
Hey, you know, whatever it takes.
That moves us down to personnel matters. Is there a motion?
All personnel need to full.
Chairman DeWitt.
To pull, okay, we need to pull Shannon DeWitt from the personnel matters.
Correct, yes.
Mr. Hayward?
I move pursuant to 6-9A-42 of the West Virginia Code that the board go into executive session to discuss personnel and personnel matters, which, if discussed in public, might affect adversely the reputation of any person.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Be in executive session.
Second,
Move to second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, brings us to personnel matters. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion, we accept the personnel matters as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
With the
with the
elimination.
elimination.
With the removal of Shannon DeWitt.
Shannon
And we had a second, correct. So any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Termination of employment for employees. In front of you is their motion.
Make a motion to accept the termination of employment for employees. Chess.
Employee A and B.
Employee A and employee B. Oh, we had to.
Second,
We do have it. Okay. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That's for the termination of Victor Chess and Courtney Rankin from the Harrison County School System. Brings us down to board member comments. Mr. Tyler.
Well, again, we had a very good discussion with the folks that were in our meeting there. And I think one strong point brought out was the fact that we need to have a training interview session for folks that are applying for our administrative jobs. And it was agreed that we need to do that. And so you folks that are out there, please be looking to that and attend that, please.
Smith.
I'm going to tell Mr. Rogers that I'll certainly work on that.
I stuck around this week.
That problem. I tend to agree with Mr. Hoag.
Oh,
I had to think for the pretty pink.
No one ever
The
agrees
pink
with
threw me.
No
But,
one ever agrees with
we need
you.
to look at that, at the retention thing, if we have to go that far. That could possibly be, a solution. Because nobody wants, one tool, yes, one solution. Nobody wants to be retained, especially at middle school. At high school, it's pretty much laid out because you have to have so many credits to be at different grade levels. So that could be one thing, but I'll work on that.
Mr. Hope.
No comments.
Mr. Devon.
No more.
No, other than, again, thank you for so many years of service,
Yes.
12 years. I think that's amazing. Everything you've done.
And I
Well-
know you're gonna hate to ride to the Greenbrier with me.
Well, and I'd just like to say, I appreciate everyone in this room, everyone in the central office, all the board members that I've served with in the past, and especially this board. Now, I think we're in good hands with this board, and Dr. Santilli, enjoy it. It's not all the bad things that a seasoned 12-year board member complains about, but there are some good and bad, and there's a lot more good than bad. It's just sometimes when you have to deal with people, things are a little different, and but we went through a lot of things. We built a lot of buildings, Johnson Elementary, Lincoln Middle School, Lost Creek, Victory Elementary, right at the tail end of Lost Creek, or of Lumberport Elementary when I got here, we were finishing that up. So additions to Simpson, this is the second gone through. So we've done a lot of buildings. I'm proud of that.
And we did them all without large
And
funds.
we've done no bonds, and we've built a lot of buildings with no bonds. No, we haven't had to go out and ask. We've used the SBA and local funds. I think fiscally, we're probably in better shape than most school systems. Our buildings are in good shape, and thanks to Mr. Lopez, because I think we have an excellent maintenance crew in this county for no more than we have. The amount that they do, we have excellent employees in every job, excellent teachers, administrators, I think everything's going to continue. Like I said, you can't please everyone. That's the problem. It's very difficult to be an elected official now with social media because there's everything you do, there's an expert out there or 100 experts. And it's easy to tell you how they feel because you don't have to see them face to face. But generally, those same people, when you are able to talk to them face to face, you can explain your side and have better results. But with that, keep plugging away. Unfortunately, I think it's just the world we live in, that there's kind of a general meanness to it. And I don't like the direction we're heading. But just remember, why you're doing this, who you're in it for, the students, our faculty and staff, and the taxpayer. Always remember the taxpayer as well, because they fund the entire operation. Without them, and Harrison County especially, with our levies, they've been more than gracious with doing that. But like I said, there's been some good people that sat in this seat. Good people will continue, and I'm here if you need me. So with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Hamrick, we do have